it's your first time tuning in, I'm Fluent. He's chill. You'll probably think that I'm a little bit crazy, but I'm Anthony K of Sports Fluent. He's Jermaine of Chilltown Hoops. Jay, how you doing, man?
Yo, what's up, brother?
What a week. I love it. We're deep into the football. The first quarter of the games are done. We're starting to get an idea of who these guys are, what teams are. In some cases. There's other cases, I have no idea what's going on from week to week. They look like a completely different team.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look back at week 3. What kind of stood to you the most? What was the biggest surprise of week 3? Or biggest failures, disappointment? What was your week 3? What sticks out the most to you?
Well, the thing that stuck out the most to me that a lot of people aren't talking about is, Justin Herbert is 2-1 against Patrick Mahomes. And that's not something that's being talked about a lot. And the more I watch him, the more I see my franchise quarterback. If I'm the Los Angeles Chargers, he just looks like a more athletic version of Dan Marino to me. The way he rolls out of the pocket, his ability to read defenses, that combination with him and Mike Williams just looks like it's working. It just does. And him with Keenan Allen, it just looks like it's working. Their run game could be a little bit better. Disappointment. Probably the thing that I was disappointed in the Bears and how they did Justin Fields. And the key now with them, Tone, is managing this right. Okay, because last week was last week. The difference now is how are we going to do this moving forward? Because what we can't do is we can't start this yanking them in and out of the lineup thing because you're going to screw them up. And that's not the plan, right? That is not the plan. But my biggest disappointment was the New York Jets. I mean, getting shut out. You guys are. I wish that I can say that there's some positive with the Jets, but they just look like a really bad team right now. They just do.
It's interesting, and I'll go in reverse order of what you said because I want to comment on each of them. It's interesting because the Jets was, it was Adam Gase. It was Sam Darnold was the problem. Mm-hmm. This was the problem. Okay, I know that it's early, and he's a rookie, but you bring in Zach Wilson, you bring in a new coach, you bring in a new staff, you bring in a new scheme, but it's the same Jets. And there's a lot to overhaul in New York. Like there's a lot to fix with the Jets. Mm-hmm. But anytime you get shut out as a professional football team, right? You got to look in the mirror a little bit because you couldn't get a field goal. You couldn't get it. You got to get something. So I said this about I think Miami 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Right, when they lost 35-0 to the Bills. Mm-hmm. You got to find a way. There's got to be I honestly don't care. I'd rather lose 50-3 than 30-0. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I think you got to go.
It's not, Tom. It's not. It's not. And the reason why it's not you is because when you get shut out, there's minimal effort there. There's very minimal effort there when you get shut out, and it says a lot about your football team on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Who is producing what? And
yeah, no, I'm with you. So to the Bears, this is going to get ugly, and I'm putting my fandom for the Bears aside here for a second. But look, I don't think this. I hope this isn't true. But when you start hearing people talking about Nagy put together an offensive plan. Mm-hmm. To basically get Justin Fields killed because he wants to prove that he's right by telling people he wasn't ready. I get it. That's just angry fans. That's reporters who are trying to create a story. The fact that that's even a conversation, right? You can't let your rookie QB, right? Your franchise quarterback, if you play it right, gets sacked 9 times. He dropped back 20 times and was hit 13, or there was what was it? It was five guys. There was no help for the 5 offensive linemen in 13 of those 20 dropbacks. You have a mobile quarterback. You have he's been there for 49 days. You don't have a playbook for him. You don't have something. It's just it's really poorly coached. I'm sorry. Justin Fields didn't do himself any favors either. But he's a rookie quarterback. We're going to expect, him to play like a rookie. He doesn't have the pieces around him. It's not like Justin Herbert last year going in and having Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and, a good offensive line. And it's not the same situation. So I'm really disappointed with how Nagy came up or didn't come up with a game plan to help his rookie quarterback put him into situations where he could succeed. And even more so, to your point, if Andy Dalton's healthy, he's our starter this week.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tone, I wish I could comment on this more, but after Justin Fields was sacked for the 5th time, I was out. I can't comment on anything else because I stopped watching after that because I saw that this was clearly something that was not going to work. You know, his ability to even make reads, he couldn't make reads because he was constantly under attack. He was constantly running for his life. He couldn't even hand the ball off. He couldn't even roll out of the pocket because he was I think it was after the 5th sack I was out. So I can't comment any further on it because I didn't watch anymore after that. After the 5th sack, Tone, I cut it off. I was like, I'm out.
The only piece I'm going to comment on it is this. Just take a look. And listen, Justin Fields is not as good as these two people I'm about to mention, okay? Let me put that out there right off the top. Look at last year's Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, maybe the best quarterback in football. He wasn't getting any help from his offensive line. He was running for his life. How did he look in that Super Bowl?
Exactly like that.
And that's Patrick Mahomes. Tom Brady, we all agree, is the GOAT. Greatest to ever do it. What happens when a team like the New York Giants puts him under a ton of pressure in a Super Bowl? How does he look? Or any game for that matter. How does he look?
Like the GOAT. Doesn't look like the GOAT.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he doesn't look like
he does not.
So these are two of the greatest quarterbacks to ever do it. And if they're under pressure, they can't perform. What do you think a rookie's going to do? Right? You have to put them in place to succeed. And they have David Montgomery. David Montgomery is a top 5 in rushing yards this season. And they ran the ball like a handful of times. Well, hold on. I don't know. You tell me if I'm crazy. Isn't a successful kind of way to help a rookie quarterback is with a run game, which builds on play action, which gives him some time to throw the ball, make his reads? Isn't that how it all starts? So if you have a top 5 rusher in the league, why aren't you rushing the ball?
That's a good question, Tone. And I think a lot of it has to do with Nagy building his offense around Andy Dalton and getting pressure constantly from people telling him that Justin Fields should be playing. And he has not prepared for Justin Fields, even though the Chicago Bears moved up in the draft. And it's clear that this guy is their future. So he may not be what's going on right now, but he's their future. But with that being said, you got a guy like that, you have to scheme and you have to put an offense together that's built around that guy's skill set. You have to do that because this is what I'm looking forward to in the future. However, take under consideration that Matt Nagy might not be there in a year. He might not be there in 2 years. So he's
I get that, but I still think Justin Fields gives him a better chance to win today too, right? Because I think I'm not knocking Andy Dalton when I say this, but I think Justin Fields is a better quarterback. I don't think many people are going to push back on that. And if you can, and listen, I get it. It's about wins and losses. If you have the better quarterback, the more talented quarterback, and not only he helps win a couple more games instead of winning, 4, they win 6. I hate to say that at this point, but let's say that. And people and management, maybe Ryan Pace isn't there, I don't know, but let's say, and they see a development. They say, hey, Justin Fields at the beginning of the season versus Justin Fields at the end, you guys are trending in the right direction. That saves your job too. However, if you do this and you're chaos, you've got no shot. So,
well, absolutely.
So, and then the first thing you mentioned was Justin Herbert. Yeah, listen, I think I've told you this. Someone mentioned the Chargers in the AFC Championship game, and I kind of scoffed.
Not ridiculous, Tone. It's not ridiculous.
Every week, I'm starting to kind of come to that realization that they might be right.
It's not ridiculous.
So that was last week. Now we got to take a look at week 4 because there's so many, not just good games this week. And I've been really happy about the 3 weeks so far. But there's games that are going to tell us. There are games that are going to tell us who these teams are this week. So I'm going to run through some of them. Because last week we had 7 undefeated. We're down to 5.
I thought it was 4. Okay.
And I guarantee you we'll be down to 4 because 2 of the undefeateds are playing each other. So unless they tie, we're going to be down to 4 undefeated teams. So let's start there. And then we'll go to a couple other games I want to talk about because, like I said, there's some good ones. So the Panthers, who are 3-0, I I think they're the biggest surprise at 3-0.
Yes, they are.
Although we were both high on their defense and on Sam Darnold going there, I wouldn't have thought they'd be. But now they have a test. Now they have a Cowboys offense at least.
Yep.
If you have fantasy player, by the way, if you play fantasy, play all your Panthers or play all your Panthers players because they're going to score some points this week, I think. So yeah, Panthers and Cowboys. This is probably their toughest test of the season. The Cowboys offense looks fantastic. Do the Panthers come out of this game still undefeated?
I'll tell you what, Tone. It looks like they got a really good shot because with that defense that they have, that run defense, they got a bunch of outcasts. You know, they got a bunch of ragtag guys. The problem that we having is that, you know, they lost their starting cornerback for the season. So that's gonna hurt their secondary. All right. So that's definitely gonna be a problem, especially considering Dak throwing the ball to Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and Schultz. So that's gonna open up a lot for them. So I don't know if the Panthers can overcome that. Now, with that offense that they have, they actually don't look bad. The problem that we have is no CMC, who I'm starting to think to myself, Tone, as good as he is, can he hold up? Because if he can hold up, I think he's arguably the best back in the league. You know, Christian McCaffrey is just so dynamic, whether it's in the flat, whether it's handing the ball off to him, whether it's lining him up as a receiver. He's just a Swiss Army knife. But he's always beat up, man, kind of like Dalvin Cook, where he's always hurt. And when he's hurt, he's out for a while. And I think that they're going to struggle without having him and without having their starting cornerback. And with Dak carving up that offense the way he's doing, Dak carving up that passing game, especially the way he did the Eagles, I wouldn't be surprised if he did the same thing to the Panthers. Now, I will tell you this. I'm still loving what they're doing with the quarterback situation in Carolina. I do. I'm just loving it. And I honestly thought that Sam Darnold, the best thing that could have happened to him was getting out of New York, because I think that we have a resurgence with him in that offense in Carolina. But I think that they're going to have a real tough time against the Cowboys.
So if you had to make your pick,
Dallas. I think Dallas going away. I don't think Dallas. I think they pull away late. I think that it's going to be a struggle for Dallas early, but late I think they pull away. I see something like 31-17, something like that.
If Carolina was healthy in the secondary and CMC, like you mentioned, I would have probably shocked some people and picked Carolina. I think those two injuries might be a little bit too much to overcome. So yeah, I think it's Dallas. But listen, I think we're going to be hearing Carolina. It wasn't just the first 3-4 week team. I think we're going to be hearing their name quite a bit for the rest of the season, which is a good thing. I like when those unexpected teams do well, and we're not just having the same conversations about those same teams. I'm going to save the one obviously where the two undefeateds are playing, because each one of these undefeated teams, in my opinion, are playing a team that will probably be their biggest test of the season. You know how I feel about Denver. The three teams that they beat are, I think, 0-9 combined. So, has their competition been anywhere near as good as what they're going to face this week against Baltimore? And the answer is no. So you got Baltimore, you have the Broncos. The Ravens just seem to find a way. A 66-yard field goal. But they're finding a way. They're 2-1. They're playing in Denver, however. Do you think Denver stays undefeated and shows they're for real? Or does Baltimore kind of say, hey, check this out, guys. We started off a little shaky, but we're good.
Well, we'll start the conversation with how bad Baltimore was offensively, just on their edge guys offensively. I mean, Hollywood Brown, he missed 3 of them. Not one, Tone, not 2, but he missed 3 touchdowns right in his hands. They should have beat Detroit by 2 touchdowns, all right? They should have beat Detroit by 2 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson he's leading the team in rushing again. Ty Williams actually looks good, but that offense just sputters. And what it makes Lamar Jackson look like, it makes him look like all he can do is run. When he actually can throw the ball, he throws darts. And when he can get to that just opens up a completely different dynamic for that Baltimore offense. Now, if Hollywood Brown could catch the football, I think that they can make some noise. But that Denver Broncos defense looks like they're serious. Now, Tone, you said this to me more than once, more than twice, and I concur. we beat who was in front of us. So if Jacksonville was in front of us, if the Giants are in front of us, if Atlanta's whoever is in front of us, that's who's on the schedule. So that's who we're playing. And the fact that they're 3-0, now this 3-0 might be a little bit different than this 3-0 on paper. However, they still 3-0. So they still
you got to play the games. You got to play the games.
Yeah, we play the team that's in front of us.
Two interesting things. One, I mentioned the top 5 rushers a little bit ago, and I said Montgomery's number 5. Lamar Jackson's number 3. Does that, for me, let me say my opinion first. That doesn't concern me. I know a lot of people are saying, when your quarterback runs, that's a recipe to get him hurt. I, in this case, disagree with that, which is maybe a normal sentiment that sometimes I agree with. I think Lamar Jackson. Why I disagree, or why people say that?
Why do you disagree?
I disagree because I think the way Lamar Jackson runs is a little bit different. He's able to see who's in front of him, and I don't think he's going to get. Look, he's still going to get hit. He's going to, but I think he runs differently than the other quarterbacks we see because he sees what's in front of him, and I think that actually is good for him. He's not like RG3 or Cam Newton who ran with like reckless abandonment and would just like run into a brick wall. He seems to kind of be a little bit shiftier than those guys, and like he'll take a hit, but it doesn't seem to be like he's going to take a hit and get hurt. That's just my impression in so far.
Or now, another quarterback that's basically running for their life.
He doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like he's running for his life. It seems like he's running with purpose, and there's a difference there.
Right.
Now, I still don't want my quarterback running that much because it's affecting other things. But I find that is 2 things about rushing I wanted to bring up, because the other one is, since his holdout, have you ever seen a player, their demise happen so kind of fast as Le'Veon Bell? He can't even get off the practice squad.
Well, I think that the problem that we had with him was him missing a whole season. That completely screwed him up, right? Because the game changed in that time. The running back is still used, but he's used differently now. And no team that he's played for has used him like he was used in Philadelphia, in Pittsburgh. I'm sorry. No team used him like that. He was a primary ball carrier in Pittsburgh. He's not that. Like, they're shifting him. They moving him. He was playing strictly in the eye when he was in Pittsburgh. Well, he ain't playing like that in Kansas City. He's not playing like that in Baltimore. So his skill set hasn't changed, but the game has changed and the playbook has changed for him. So it just looks completely different with him. So he might be over, Tone.
I hate to say it, because when he held out, he was at the peak of his career, and that just goes to show you need to keep playing. Like, I get it, get your money, but lately, everyone who seemed, I think of Dennis Schroeder, everyone who seems to kind of be holding out, it doesn't work out in your favor. Dak was lucky, but if he was holding out for more money and then he gets hurt, he's lucky that Dallas kind of had the faith in him to return. But you got to be careful with that. So back to this, I think the Denver Bronco defense is fantastic. I love Vic Fangio. I like the moves that they made. They're healthy. I've said this a million times. I really like the fact that they went with Teddy instead of Drew Lock, because I think he's the safe back. And I'm gonna make my pick because I don't know. I think I've said, don't be fooled by the Broncos because their opponents were 0-9. I think the Broncos stay undefeated.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tone, and I please don't tell my wife about this, but as you know, I believe 49 are red. But I have been secretly having an affair with the Denver Broncos for the past 20 years. So if you could keep that between you and me, that would be great. I would very much appreciate that. But Von Miller looks like he's having a resurgence, getting Patrick Surtain back there. He looks like he's going to be one of the better corners in the game. And I think that Denver is the real deal. I do think that they're the real deal, and I think that they beat Baltimore this weekend.
Yeah, I think, and that's why I said we're going to find out a lot about these teams this week. And let me just say, you've told me this before about Denver, so it's not a surprise. But I feel like Justin Herbert's in that mix there too. There might be a couple of affairs going on over there because you're really high on Justin Herbert.
We've had a conversation or two, but I'm going to keep that to myself.
The Monday Nighter. Speaking of Justin Herbert,
Since we on that subject.
Another undefeated team in the now Las Vegas Raiders, which I got to get to Vegas and watch a game. I was there a couple of times as they were building that stadium. That just looks beautiful.
Tone, it's crazy that you mentioned that because I was just thinking that watching them against the Dolphins. I'm like, yo, that Las Vegas stadium looks like that might be the place to be. I might have to get on a bird and head out there.
I was there.
To a game.
I was there 2 years ago, right before COVID hit, and they were so it was almost done from the outside, anyways. And I would just remember driving in, going into the strip, and then looking to the left, and just wow, I was like, "That's beautiful! I gotta get in there." So so they're going to be facing Justin Herbert and the Chargers, who are 2-1. This is going to be the Raiders have beat some good teams.
Yes, they have.
They're one of those that. On paper, they beat teams. They beat some good. What are you expecting to see from the Raiders and the Superchargers this week?
Well, I expect to see the same thing I've seen from the Raiders with that aerial attack. Derek Carr is leading the league in yards, and his number one target is Waller. That's his guy. So there's no question about that. That defense looks like it's solid enough to hold. It looks like with the Raiders offense, they look like if you could just keep us in the game defense and just not let teams march up the field, we'll score enough points. Absolutely, we will. The problem with that offense early is that because I watched them against Miami and they sputtered early. And Derek Carr threw a pick six. All right, we show up. That's fine. However, what he did do was he regrouped and they got it back together really quick. Absolutely got it back together. But I think that's it. I was about to say San Diego. Tone, I got to get off the San Diego thing. They're not San Diego.
I just call them the Chargers.
That's what I'm going to have to do. Yeah. The Chargers, I'm not on the – I'm not – I don't know if it's ridiculous to say that they could possibly be the best team in the AFC. I think they're the best team in that division. I will tell you that. I'm not going to go – I'm saying it. I think the Chargers are the best team in the AFC West. And – I think that they handled the Raiders on Monday night. I don't think that they smoked the Raiders, but I think that they handled them. Justin Herbert and, like I said, Mike Williams are on the same page. Keenan Allen is also involved in what they're doing. That defense is solid. I think that they're the best team in the AFC West, and they may very well be the best team in the AFC overall.
I am going to – listen, I was on the fence, and you pushed me to the other side because I don't want to agree with you. I think the Chargers – this was going to be a letdown game for them. I think a big win over the Chiefs. They're playing on Monday night, and it's going to be a letdown game, and the Raiders are going to go in there and sneak one and take it away from them and stay undefeated. And we're going to be wondering what happened. I think that was their high. That was their high last week, and then they're going to get knocked. They're going to get knocked down, back down to earth, and then they'll start to pick it up when they realize, oh, we have to play that same intensity that same way every single week. Raiders, just because. All right, so the last one, the last one, because this is a good one. So we have two undefeated teams. So we know. So the other three all have an opportunity to stay undefeated. We'll see who actually does. This one, the NFC West is so good that Seattle at 1-2. They're a good team, but we're not talking about them at all. But we got Cardinals and Rams, both 3-0. Cardinals have surprised. We talked about it preseason. Let's watch out for the Cardinals. They could be good with D-Hop and even James Conner is starting to bring it on. Christian Kirk, Rondo, obviously Kyler Murray. Their defense, Chandler Jones had a big first week, but even that, everything's clicking for the Cardinals. And I told you this. I had question marks when it comes to the Rams. I don't like Matthew Stafford. Man, does he look good in Sean McVay's offense. He's putting up numbers that they haven't seen. He's breaking Kurt Warner Ram records. That's an impressive records to break because that greatest show on turf. So do we have a winner? Is this going to be like a 50-51, or is it going to be a defensive? Is it?
You could very well look at this, Tone, and say that the last person that had a ball, that's who's going to win because in terms of their offense. And the more I watch Matthew Stafford, I think about that Oprah episode. You get a car. You'll get a car. You'll get a car. You'll get a car. And it just looks like he's just dealing. Whoever is available, he's getting to him. Higbee. Cooper Kupp is leading the league in yards, and he's looked like he's going to be an all-pro. Henderson coming out of the backfield. That offense is just dynamic, and I think that they just scratched the surface with him with opening up the playbook. They haven't opened up the playbook yet. Before the season started, however, I said I think Kyler Murray could lead the league in touchdowns. With Hopkins and with A.J. Green back there. And I don't know what it is about Arizona, and I think you and I had this conversation. Something's going on with the water down there in Arizona, where guys go down there and all of a sudden they look like they're 10 years younger.
I told you I live there. It's the heat. It eliminates all the aches and the pains and the arthritis.
Something's going on down there, man.
I tell my wife, I'm like, listen, the older we get, the closer we are to moving back. Right? I used to live there, so
absolutely. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at what Arizona is doing offensively, and the Rams just look like they're going to be very difficult to stop defensively. I look at what they did in terms of their defense, in terms of the Rams defense, in terms of what they did with Tom Brady. On paper, it looks like Tom Brady had a great game, only except he didn't. That defense did a phenomenal job in the red zone with him. That defense did a really good job in terms of run game. I thought they did a really good job, and I wouldn't be surprised. I'm taking the Rams over Arizona, but I'm taking them in a shootout. It's going to be something like 37-34. 41-37, something like that.
Yes, yeah. Someone's hitting the 40s. Yes. I think for sure. I think the Rams, if the Rams stay healthy, they're getting Derek Henderson back, as you mentioned, in the backfield. This team has a legit shot of running the table, and this is going to be a test for them. But I don't see
how. Are we going to see 2 years in a row, Tone? Are we going to see the host of the Super Bowl playing 2 years in a row? Is that what you're telling me, Tone?
I think we might.
Uh-oh.
Listen, I talked to a huge Bucs fan,
mm-hmm.
and I mean huge Bucs fan. OJ knows sports. If you're on TikTok, he knows his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he said the only team, and he's high, and we talked about the Bucs bringing back all 22 starters, and
mm-hmm.
Brady and all that kind of stuff that we've talked about before. And he said there's only one team in the NFL that scares me as a Bucs fan, and that's the Rams. And they showed it last week, and I think my only question mark was Matthew Stafford.
Right.
And I said they're not gonna be as good as people expect. Preseason, mm-hmm. I said they're not gonna be as good as people expect. I've seen Matthew Stafford 2 times a year for 12 years. I know what he is. I was wrong. There, it's out. It's in the open. I was wrong.
Yeah.
The Rams are the toast of the town. I can see them representing. And listen, if they make it to the Super Bowl and they're playing at home, the one thing I know about LA, having lived in LA, I don't want to say it's not a great sports town. They're finicky. But if you're a winner, they're going to come out and support those Rams.
Oh, they line up.
They're going to come out and support those Rams. I have friends who still live there, and all I see every week is pictures. They're at every game. And I said, I thought you didn't like football. He goes, the Rams, baby. And I'm like, what do you mean the Rams, baby? It's because they're winning. It's because they're winning. So that's good because you're going to have a home field advantage in the Super Bowl. Which
take it a step further than that, Tone. How about the Rams and the Chargers in the bowl game?
Ooh, see, that might change it up a bit.
Is that ridiculous?
It's not ridiculous. The rest of the country might hate it, but it's actually not ridiculous. I'd actually like to see that. I would. Like I said, everyone on the East Coast is gonna hate that for sure.
Oh, they're gonna hate it,
especially because it's already the game already starts late as it is. They need to start it at like 1 p.m.
Right.
West Pacific time, because I can't. If they start a 7 o'clock game, and that means 10 p.m. on the East Coast, I can't. I'll be sleeping.
No.
Well, I think we already talked about this, that they're going to start that game early. They've already actually said it. It's going to be daylight for one of the first few times a Super Bowl is going to start with in daylight. But that's actually not crazy. It's not crazy. I don't think it'll happen, but it's not crazy. So we both have the Rams, I guess. And I keep trying to disagree with you, but your takes are so good because you agree. All right. So any other games? Is there any? Tonight it's not that we have a great game
Tonight we got Jags and Bengals, Lions and Bears, Washington and the Falcons, the Bills and the Texans. There's not, there's some of those games. The Browns and the Vikings, not a bad game.
Tone, this is what I want you to do. I want you to start paying attention. And I know that, you being a Bears guy and you being an NFC North guy, start paying attention to what they're doing up in Cincinnati. I'm not saying that you got to sit in front of the TV, but start checking out what they're doing. Joe Mixon is the real deal. This thing that Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow got going on, it's serious. So all I'm at, and that defense that they have up there, stop paying attention to what they're doing up in Cincinnati. And don't be surprised if you see Cincinnati in the mix, not just for a playoff spot, but they might be in the mix at the top of the AFC North to win that division. And all I'm asking you to do, Tone, is just peek your head in there and see what they're doing.
So this is something you don't know. So I don't know. This is exclusive. One, I'm gonna not call you out, but give you credit because you said this to me, and we got to go back 4 or 5 weeks to one of our shows that we did. And you said, don't be surprised if the Bengals are knocking on the door of being in the wild card. You said this in the preseason. The only other person in the world that said that to me, and this is the exclusive part, because I've talked to a lot of people, and I talk about the Bengals, and everyone always wonders, why do I talk about the Bengals? My wife is a diehard Bengals fan. Has been for decades. So we already kind of I always have an eye on the Bengals because she's a huge Bengals fan. Mm-hmm. And I said, I remember when we met, I said, why do you like the Bengals? She said, I love an underdog story. They're never picked to win. I said, okay, that makes sense. That's probably why she has faith in me. And so I had question marks about their offensive line, as you know, and Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon more so than the offensive line have surprised me this season. So I actually will be watching this game, even though they're playing the Jags. But this is one of those games that will tell me, are they just a team? Because they lost to the Bears, right? So I thought, okay, same old Bengals a little bit. And the way they looked against the Bears. But the other two games, their 2 wins have actually been impressive wins. This is the game that's going to tell me, do you play to the level of your competition, which is just that's what immature teams do, and so you're going to be a 500 team and not to, or do they say, hey, we're better than these guys, and let's go out and show that we're better than these guys? So if they go out and really play well and kind of as they should dominate the Jags, that's why I said this week is so interesting for me. There's so many things I'm going to learn this week. So if they go out and do that to the Jags, then I'll be with you, and I'll say, yep, they're knocking on the wild card door, maybe even the NFC North. If they come in and lay an egg, then I'm gonna question.
I've always been under the impression, Tom, especially in pro football, like around week 4, week 5, okay, this is who these guys are. All right. So Cincinnati is starting to look like I think that what Joe Burrow did against Chicago, throwing 3 interceptions. I mean, and they only lost by 3. I mean, they were in the game. It wasn't like it was a situation where they got smoked. And he'll tell you that I'm the one who killed us, throwing 3 interceptions, and 1 was for a pick 6. And by the way,
Roquan Smith.
That's my guy. I keep telling you, that's my guy. I'm loving Roquan Smith as much as anybody. But the Cincinnati Bengals, they have the pieces, and they look like a team that once we get to week 8, once we get to week 9, we're going to be talking about them a lot more than we do now. And we're already talking about them now, but come week 8, come week 9, we're going to be talking about them a lot more. So I'm just telling you now, Tone, to just peek your head in and see what they got going on and to see why we're going to be talking about them in week 8, week 9 in a good way.
If you think about how many Joe Burrow has played in the NFL, this is still kind of his rookie season, right? Because he got hurt last season, missed a few games. So really he hasn't played. And if, the reason I bring that up is he had 1 bad game, 3 picks, like you mentioned, away from starting the season 3-0. Like there's no reason. Like you said, they lost by 3. They had an opportunity to win that game. They could easily be 3-0 with wins against the Vikings and the Bears. An NFC North, a couple of NFC North teams. So all right, so we'll see this week. Is there any other game that you're thinking this week? And I do want to bring up one more. I'll bring up one more, and then I'll let you go. because this is a game that's going to tell us, is the Super Bowl curse hangover thing real, or because this is a prove it to me game. Chiefs and Eagles. The Eagles, although their record is 1-2, the Eagles have played well this season.
Yes, they have.
The Chiefs 1-2. Is this their get right game? Or
I think it is. I do. I think it is. I think that they had their mishaps against the Chargers, and as bad as they played, they still were in that game. And I think that they look at Philadelphia, not like it's just a comeback, but we got to get back on track to what we're doing. They don't run the football in Kansas City. That's not their game. It's an aerial attack. And what the Chargers did was they slowed down Cheetah. They slowed him down, and they figure, Kelsey, you got to kill us. All of these other guys and Mahomes, you guys are going to have to do it because Cheetah can't kill us with the long ball. And I think the same thing's going to happen with Philadelphia. That's the game plan. Slow down Cheetah, and you could slow them down. But I look at Philadelphia, and I look at their secondary, and I think that they're going to have trouble with what Kansas City is doing with their aerial attack. So I think that they get back on track this week. The game that I am looking forward to, my Niners, we have such a difficult time with Seattle, man. Let me tell you. And this is a division game. And Tone, you and I have talked about this in the past. The games that we have to have, the games that we have to win are the division games. Because whatever we're doing outside of the division is understandable. But in the division, especially the NFC West, where you already got two teams that's undefeated in the Rams and Arizona. So you can't fall 2 or 3 games in the hole in that division. Otherwise, you're going to be out. So I'm really interested to see how we handle Seattle this weekend. I'm really interested to see that.
Speaking of divisional games, and this will be the last thing. Actually, no. You know what? I'm gonna put it out there because I'm gonna say about this game, but then I have a question for you that I want to ask, and then I'll let you go. So obviously, my Bears are playing the Lions, a divisional game, like you said. The Lions have put up 33 on your Niners, 17 on the Packers, 17 on the Ravens, but have lost, other than the Packers game, they've been in, well, they came back on the 49ers. They were out early, but they were in that Ravens game. Are they a team that the Bears should be afraid of because, one, they can score, and two, right, they're not as bad as their 0-3 record would show. And let's be honest, the Bears don't even know who their starting quarterback is right now. They said whoever's the healthiest. Is this a game that my Bears can go to 2-2 and be, okay, let's win a division game? Or
in the words of Bill Parcells, you are what your record says you are. That's all I'm going to say about the Detroit Lions. You are what your record says you are. Now, I can appreciate Jared Goff is a lot better than what people give him credit for.
Yep, agreed.
He is a lot better than what people say he is. No question about that. However, you are what your record says you are. In the words of in the words of Bill Parcells.
Is it too early to put the coach, their coach, on the hot seat? Because he came in with a lot of bravado, and he wanted to bring in a real lion as their mascot, like on a chain, and I think his office door says "the dude." Like, he came in with a lot of swag. But if you don't win, like if you're 3-0, people go, "Yeah, oh, look at that!" Well, that confidence. But when you lose, it's just arrogance. So he's on the. Is he on? He's on
and
the
you look like a
already?
clown. And you look like a clown, but not yet, Tone. Let's. The one guy that's on the hot seat for me is Judge with the Giants. He's the guy that's on the hot seat right now. He's the one guy on the hot seat for me right now. But in Detroit, I don't think that there's a hot seat yet.
You don't think Urban Meyer a little bit? Or
no, he just got there, and that Jacksonville
but
team.
He's just so many bad decisions already. Though.
Yeah, but that Jacksonville team, that's a young team that's trying to figure it out, and I don't think that Urban Meyer's on the hot seat yet. I got to give him a season, maybe 2 seasons, before I start to really evaluate who he is as a pro football coach. I'm not going out. I'm not off the fence. I'm still on the fence with Urban Meyer. Okay. With Judge, I think he's on the hot seat.
Yeah, no, I'd agree, because the expectations. He's the one that had the highest expectations, I would say,
Absolutely.
Between the three.
The Giants should be a lot better than what they are. They should be.
Here's the question, because you mentioned earlier about CMC always getting hurt. And I've been having this conversation, it seems like a lot lately, about every sport. But it's interesting. We always talk about athletes, and the common kind of theme is they're all bigger, faster, stronger now than they ever were. And I always say I don't believe that to be true entirely, because the training, the nutrition, my response is always, yeah, the training and the nutrition, we've learned a lot of things, but has that made them better? Because players didn't have load management, back in the day. Pitchers used to pitch way more innings. Now it's, each pitcher goes 4 innings, and there's a specialist here, and there's a mid reliever, and then a short closer, and a long this, and a whatever. Sorry, a long reliever, a short reliever, a closer. Like, it's like you have a different pitcher every inning. Running backs, everybody was a workhorse. You were a 3-down back, and now it's, well, he's our first down back. He's our goal line back. He's our 3rd down, kind of out of the backfield receiving back. Change of pace back. There's all these things. People are getting hurt. Like I said, people are getting hurt. So is all this kind of nutrition and health, and like CMC, when you look at him, he looks like he could run through a brick wall.
Yeah, he looks like an action figure. Absolutely.
Yet here he is, injury. So, and then people talk about talent and skill. Different conversation. I'm just talking about athletics. Are they bigger? Are they really bigger, faster, stronger? Because I think maybe some are, but I can go back to how many athletes and say, well, I'll go back to the 60s and say, I don't think anybody could do, what Jim Brown did.
Right.
I think if you plop Jim Brown today, he's getting you 100 yards a carry, or not a carry, 100 yards a game.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think Bo Jackson has an issue. I don't think Deion Sanders has trouble covering any of the receivers today. Now, granted, maybe I'm picking the best of the best, and that's why, and maybe it's on average. I'm curious to know your thoughts on that, because I don't know. Like, I feel like we're going to have an episode of Ocho versus Science.
Well,
where Chad, as I call him, 8'5", always talks about it's just genetics, and Brandon Marshall's telling you, no, it's what you put in your body. It's all that stuff.
Well, Tone, what I can't fight evolution, right? And athletes on the surface, they look bigger, they look faster, and they look stronger. But the problem is, it's like anything. If you don't test it, it's gonna break. And when it breaks, it's going to stay broken because you don't know what the limits are. So with these athletes, when they break down, you don't throw them back out there because you're afraid to break them again. So when you have guys like Dalvin Cook, who rolls his ankle and he's out for 3 weeks, as opposed to an athlete 30 years ago, like Emmitt Smith, playing against the Giants with a separated shoulder, and he runs for almost 200 yards. I look at guys like Derrick Henry, who is a workhorse back. Does Derrick Henry, is he a workhorse back more than Eddie George was? And the reason why is because these guys back then, they took the pounding. Now, that's probably why they have, concussion protocol, because you got to get saved from yourself. Yeah. Because these guys, just throwing them back out there isn't good for their long-term health. Yeah. However,
it's why some of them can't walk. It's why some of them can't get out of bed in the morning.
That's why Earl Campbell ended up the way he was. But how are we going to find out what the breaking point is if we don't put them out there? So it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I'm risking the health of this guy, but then I don't know how good he is neither. So it's a little bit of tug and pull there. But to answer your question, Tone, I don't think that the athlete is any better. I mean, like I said, I can appreciate evolution, but you and I have had this conversation before, Tone. I mean, Bill Russell was invited to the Olympic trials in 1956, and if you drop Wilt Chamberlain in 2021 and you gave him what was going on today, I don't think Wilt would have a problem being Wilt Chamberlain today. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal came into the NBA in 1982. He was 290 pounds and he was 4% body fat. So, I mean, I don't think that evolution has changed that much.
Yeah, listen, true evolution takes millions of years, but I see what you're saying. And that's, I guess, what my question is, because you brought up a good point. I see all this. Listen, I'm not anti-nutrition or working. I'm not saying that at all. But you're right. There's less body. I'll tell you a story. My dad, every Sunday growing up, my dad would go sit out on the porch, and he would have, and I'm not saying do this, please disclaimer, do not do this, but he would go sit out on the porch. He would have one cigarette and a shot glass of ouzo, which is like it's a Greek kind of drink. It's liquor, right? Like hard liquor. Actually, he would have the kind of the bootleg version. It's called chipero, which is like moonshine. Moonshine. It's probably the best way to describe it. So he would have one cigarette and a shot glass of ouzo that he would sip. And I'd always ask him, I'm like, you know that smoking is bad for you, right? Like, why do you do that? And he goes, listen, your body needs to have bad things in it so it knows how to deal, and it makes it stronger. If your body is always filled with good stuff, then when something bad comes in, it doesn't know how to handle it. So every time I see these athletes, like, I'm not picking on CMC, but like, he just looks chiseled and zero body fat. I think he needs maybe 5% body fat. He needs to have some of that fat. I've overdone it, mind you, but he needs to have some of that, bad stuff in his body to keep him honest. And we always talk about dad strength, right? Like, for whatever reason, when you become a dad, you can pick up a 200-pound man just like this off the ground. And it's like, hold on, you couldn't pick up a chair. Now you're picking up a human being. It's dad strength, baby. There's that kind of element to it where let's not confuse. Listen, it's great if you're a bodybuilder and your job is to stand on a stage and flex muscles. But I'm sorry, your body needs to be a little bit different when you're taking a hit from a 300-pound lineman. I feel like you need more than just muscle. You need to take it. So,
absolutely.
So I wanted to bring that up to you because I keep getting into these debates, and maybe I should stop. Maybe it's me. Maybe I should just ignore them. Where they're like, oh, the players of yesterday couldn't compare with the players of today because they're all bigger, stronger, faster. And I just keep shaking my head. I'm like, can people really believe that? Because I don't necessarily think it's completely true. So I wanted to have your take on it. So that's interesting.
Absolutely.
That's it for the NFL edition of Fluent and Chill. Check us out every week. Wednesdays is basketball. Fridays is NBA. We're on YouTube. You can find them on Chilltown Hoops or on Sports Fluent. You can also find the links on sportsfluent.com. And check us out on TikTok, 8 p.m. live, and ask us your questions, which we will gladly answer, debate, or debunk for you. 8 o'clock Eastern on TikTok. Until next week, I'm Anthony K.
Take it light. Take it.